This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. Murdered man mistaken for suspect in St. Thomas abductions was mentally ill. The news has been informed that a man killed on Wednesday morning by a mob in Landewy, St. Thomas, after he was mistakenly identified as a suspect in the abduction of 2 girls in that parish, suffered from a mental illness and wandered into the community when he was attacked. He has been identified as Levy Chambers, a car detailer. Mr. Chambers was employed to a car rental company and was a resident of South Haven in Yala, St. Thomas. The news was informed that Mr. Chambers left home for work on Wednesday morning but lost his way and ended up in Landewy. Residents reportedly saw him walking along the Landewy main road, stopped him and questioned who he was. It's reported that Mr. Chambers ran and was chased. He ran into bushes and across the Yalas River. Mr. Chambers was held by the mob and stabbed several times in the abdomen. Superintendent Alison Byfield, commanding officer for the St. Thomas Police Division, said a police team was alerted shortly after the incident. They took the man to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. The police are trying to find the members of the mob that killed Mr. Chambers. Superintendent Byfield has appealed to residents to desist from carrying out mob killings. MP proposes electronic monitoring of persons on bail. Dr. Michelle Charles, a member of Parliament for St. Thomas East, is calling for the use of electronic monitoring devices to assist the police in tracking persons who are on bail. This comes in the wake of news that the man suspected of abducting the 2 girls in St. Thomas, 32-year-old Davian Bryan, was on bail in Portland on firearm and rape charges. He relocated to St. Thomas. Making her contribution to the State of the Constituency debate in the House of Representatives on Wednesday afternoon, Dr. Charles raised the concern that people accused of these types of offenses have to relocate to a different community or parish, but there is no means of monitoring them.
I have a concern. When someone is placed on bail and is prohibited from a community where an offense is alleged to have occurred, they have to now move to a different community. That shifting of problem can lead to multiple problems, unless there's a structured monitoring of the person who is on bail. Madam Speaker, for instance, we had over 800 persons looking for one man in my constituency. Imagine, Madam Speaker, if that one man had an ankle bracelet on. Madam Speaker, I am calling for the use of technology to enhance the capabilities of the security forces to be able to track somebody. We should not have so much difficulty finding someone that is interacting with our own court. Madam Speaker, I am calling for a restructuring of the mechanism to ensure that we know who is living among us. There are reasons why we have a sex offender registry. The reason is to identify these persons so we can protect the community. That is not effectively being done. I am calling for a more effective system and all necessary legislative changes that are required to create the framework needed for us to be able to protect our children and our community from the claws of these beasts. I want to encourage everyone to invest in CCTV as well. Because of that one person's investment, we were able to identify who that was very early. Madam Speaker, I cringe at every Ananda alert. I weep with every news report of another boy or girl gone missing. When will it stop? What is most alarming, Madam Speaker, is that the subject is still at large. I say to him and to all involved, turn yourself into the police. You are in the wrong constituency. We are the constituency of Paul Bogle, and you will be found.
One Don Gang trial postponed. The One Don Gang trial has been postponed until October 25. The trial was scheduled to continue on Wednesday via video link with one of the defendants who contracted COVID-19. However, when the matter was called up in the Home Circuit Court on Wednesday morning, Chief Justice Brian Sykes disclosed that Ministry of Health protocols would not allow for the defendant, Jermaine Robinson, to participate in the hearing. Robinson is one of 33 people on trial for alleged involvement in a criminal organization. They have been charged in relation to murders, shootings, arson, among other things. The Wandon gang is a faction of the Spanish Town-based Klansman gang. JCC calls for religious leaders to be regulated. The debate surrounding the regulation of leaders of religious organizations has again been reignited following Sunday's deadly incident at Pathways International Kingdom Restoration Ministries in Montego Bay, St. James. 2 people were killed in what has been described as a human sacrifice ritual at the establishment. Another congregant was shot dead after he fired on the police, who were alerted to the compound. Reverend Newton Dixon, president of the Jamaica Council of Churches, believes agreed ethical standards should be established for pastors in order to prevent a repeat of incidents like these. Reverend Dixon has asserted that the church and the state have matured to allow for the monitoring to take place without infringing religious freedom.
We engage in the struggle against our predilection towards evil every single day. What helps are structures, and structures come when we have strong, robust institutions. And so my call for this kind of ethical charter, and I just use the phrase loosely because it's something we're going to have to hash out, is made against the background that we have to find a way to say to each other, these are some of the basic standards that we'll agree on. We're protecting people in our religious spaces are concerned, and how in concert with government, how that is monitored. Most churches within their jurisdiction have very stringent measures for dealing with their own self-regulation. You read their constitutions, you see a lot of space and time is put towards dealing with deviant behavior, misconduct, and that sort of thing. What I think we need is a general approach that is open and transparent to the entire nation, where churches say together, these are the things we do to protect people from harm and danger.
Rasta elder cautions against forcing members to take jab. With Prime Minister Andrew Holness hinting that mandatory COVID-19 vaccination could be on the horizon amid substantial local hesitancy to the jab, the Rastafarian community says such a move would be a breach of their religious and indigenous rights and will be stoutly resisted. We are not comfortable with what we are hearing as it relates to forcing people to take the vaccine, said Rastafarian Elder Ras Aya, a respected voice for Rastafari on the global stage. As Rastafari, we are opposed to vaccination, and trying to force us to take it will be a breach of our fundamental rights and religious freedom. After scoffing at mandatory vaccination in the initial stages of the pandemic, Holness appears to be changing his stance as he recently defended employers' rights to create vaccination policies which could force persons opposed to the jab out of the nation's workforce. With several international conventions, including measures crafted by the United Nations, making it unlawful to breach the religious rights and the fundamental freedoms of indigenous people, IFV believes Rastafarians stand on solid grounds in their defiant stance against a mandatory vaccination. We are not talking about rights that we have created. We are talking about universally accepted rights which were established to protect the rights of people all over the world, said IFV. It is against that background that I am urging the government to tread carefully on this one. While Rastafarians are generally not in support of vaccines, preferring to utilize folk medicines which have been passed down from generation to generation, IFV says he is particularly concerned about the COVID-19 vaccines which he believes were hastily created without extensive trials, unlike vaccines of former times. These vaccines have not undergone any extensive trials, and what is now happening could well be part of that testing. No one knows the likely effect it is going to have on people in the years to come, because that information can only come through substantial testing, said IFV. He says any attempt to force Rastafarians to take the vaccination could result in a situation similar to the infamous 1963 Coral Gardens incident. In the incident, several police officers and the Rastafarians were killed in a bloody confrontation. It would be a most unfortunate situation because while we prefer to be at peace, we are not prepared to stand by and watch our rights violated. We believe our rights are sacred and we are prepared to defend those rights, said IFE. The Rastafarian elder is also wary of the fact that if the police and the military are used by the government to enforce its mandate, it could fracture the relationship that the police and the Rastafarian have worked hard to build in the 58 years since the Coral Gardens incident. We are finally having a good relationship with the police. We had the Commissioner of Police, Brigadier General Anthony Anderson, and the St. James Commander, Senior Superintendent Vernon Ellis, visiting us at the Nyabingi Center in Pitfall, Granville, St. James, and it was a great experience, said IFV. We see where we can forge a common ground with the police for our mutual benefit, and we don't want this unwarranted mandatory vaccination to put us at odds again. IFV is also worried that using the police and the military to enforce the vaccination mandate could create a family conflict because security personnel are members of the wider Jamaican family. While the government's position on mandatory vaccination appears to be strengthening, the Holness administration has not suggested that Jamaicans would be physically forced to take the jab. Police treading carefully in Mobe cultic case. The police appear to be treading cautiously in building their case against a key player of Pathways International Kingdom Restoration Ministries, where 2 congregants were killed on Sunday, allegedly as part of a bizarre ritual involving human sacrifice. Assistant Commissioner of Police in charge of Area 1, Clifford Chambers, told the news yesterday that while they have enough to bring charges now, the legal team has recommended that certain things be done before that step is taken. Lawmen have in the past been criticized for failing to provide enough evidence for convictions. However, they have hit back that the courts are too lenient, releasing indicted individuals back onto the streets. As it is now, based on my information, he can be charged for certain offenses, but the direction from our legal officer is that we would want to do certain things before, which is presently in train, before he is formally charged, ACP Chambers said. I have an idea when he will be charged, which is not in terms of days and hours, but I am sure that he will be charged when sufficient evidence with regards to certain crimes are put together. The leader of the religious organization and the 3 other men remain in custody, while 31 women and 7 men taken into custody on Sunday have been charged with breaches of the Disaster Risk Management Act and given bail. 14 minors who were at the church at the time of the incident are being held in state care, and the people injured during the incident are recovering. Yesterday, a police team armed with a warrant visited a home allegedly belonging to the pastor of Pathways International Kingdom Restoration Ministries, Kevin Smith, in the upscale community of Ironshore in St. James. Given that it was a serious crime that was presumably committed in his presence, then the police would therefore have the authority to get a warrant to enter his home or other places where evidence can be gathered, explained ACP Chambers. Based on the investigative lead, the police would have the authority to go to his house and to search for any other supporting evidence that can lead to the best outcome in regards to the investigations and the crimes which were committed, the senior cop added. The padlocked gate, he said, would not have deterred his team. I am not certain if they were able to enter the property. I have not yet seen an update where that is concerned, but be mindful that the nature of the offense that was committed would have empowered the law enforcement officers to enter by force if deemed appropriate. So even though there is a padlock, it would not negate the police entering as long as they do have a warrant properly prepared and signed and authorizes them to enter, stated ACP Chambers. In responding to concerns raised that some of the young men who attended Pathway International Kingdom Restoration Ministries were possibly sexually molested, Chambers said his team will follow all angles of the investigation. There is information about molestation. That is what it is, information. But that means that it is part of the investigative mode by the police officers. In a situation like this, investigators will do absolutely nothing until there is evidence pointing that it should not be ruled out, he said. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.